Welcome back to the Team Nerd Herd podcast, where our best advice is if you want to do it right, collect what you like. Team Nerd Herd podcast, we are super excited to yet bring another interview from our writer spotlights, creator spotlights. We are super excited. Now, you might have seen a lot of her work on creator-owned type of work like Heart in a Box. You might know some of her Marvel work with Captain Marvel, Deadpool, Hawkeye, and also this recent Black Widow run. Team Nerd Herd podcast, give her a round of applause and a warm welcome to Kelly Thompson. Thank you so much.
Yo.
Hi, guys.
What's going on, Kelly?
Hey, Kelly.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on the
Thanks
show.
for coming on the show. My goodness.
Yeah, we're super excited. We are super excited to have you on the show, most definitely.
I hope Steve proves himself with his knowledge every week, because the rest of you have got serious comic book stuff in your background, but Steve is suspiciously without a background. But I guess I'm not allowed to say that since I'm not even there. So I
Well, if you
he's in a lab coat or something, we don't know.
if he turned his camera around, he has all kinds of 6-inch action figures.
Oh wow!
All kinds of that. So
Wow. I always
Yeah,
wonder, how do you guys keep those clean?
very carefully. Dusting, praying to the collector gods that nothing drops, no comics are bent.
Does canned air work on the figures? I was thinking the other day that might be a good way to keep them.
That might be a good one.
dust-free.
Oh yeah, it really
The
does.
fabric though. How does it? It kind of messes with the fabric though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you get them in the shelves and they're dusty and they just kind of sit there, you got to worry about them. But
Yeah.
that's just my little collector hobby. But before we get into the juicy stuff, Kelly, I'd like to kind of give a little round off to our rest of my brothers from the Team Nerd Herd podcast. So, before we get into this juicy stuff, let me go ahead and pass it over to Alonzo. What's going on, my brother?
What's going on, Steve? Thank you. And Kelly, thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, super excited to have you. And we have like lots of questions to ask you. But I am your comic book nerd as well as your pop culture fanatic. And let's take it all the way over to JR. What's going on?
nothing much. This is JR. You're an asshole of the bunch. You're a Star Wars fan. You're a Marvel fan. You're a know-it-all, I guess. I'll pass it on down to my brother from another mother. What's up, Ian?
And yo, what's up? This is Hood Rat Comics over here in San Diego, California. Just your schizophrenic collector of all things real and digital. Moving that back up to Steve. What's up, Steve?
Thank you, sir. And I'm just a one-troll scale collector, comic book lover, and chaser of all things nostalgic. So, Team Nerd Herd, we are going to start right now. Now, I know E likes to set it off with the number one question for the Team Nerd Herd. So I'm going to pass it on down to E, and let's open it up.
And yo, Kelly, first things first, where you at right now? Where you chilling?
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, you do the Voodoo Donuts? You do the Voodoo Donuts or what?
I do love the Voodoo Donuts, although I don't like all the weird stuff. I just like the boring, like they make an incredible, just super boring raised chocolate glaze. Oh, it's so good.
You don't like that? My favorite donut is the Big Dong, the one that looks like a big, the big thing.
Yeah.
You know what that one is? The Big Dong.
They've got so much crazy stuff. They've got like cereal donuts.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff, but and it's all interesting. But I'm very boring. So
It's a classic. I mean, when I go to donut shop, it's always apple fritters. I don't stray away.
But you're
speaking
basic.
my language.
You're basic, Alonzo. I love you, but you're Cyclops.
You gotta go with the rich graham cracker chocolate. Oh my god! I went to it does no justice. I went to Voodoo Donuts at Universal, and although it's just eases the tease, it's nothing like getting in line.
Not quite
and
the same.
waiting.
Huh?
No.
Yeah.
Oh no,
No.
never.
Did you say you're in LA? I've gotten you guys mixed up now. You're all in California.
Oh yeah.
We're all in California, but
Yep.
Steve is in LA or LA adjacent.
LA's got incredible donuts though, like DK Donuts. They have this incredible. There was a whole story I was reading. I only got to read part of it about a Cambodian guy that has really. It's a whole it's not a franchise, but it's all like relatives of his and everything that they've all spread out and they have all these donut shops, and it's why they've got all these great donut shops in LA. It's very cool.
And see, when I think of Portland, I think of the food truck lot.
Yeah.
Like I saw it on Food Network, and I'm just like, okay, take my fat butt over there, or fat ass over there.
We're not downtown, so we don't go to that one, which is like the big, really famous one a lot. I don't actually even know the status of that, but Portland loves food trucks, and so there's a lot of smaller lots all over the city too, like on Southeast, which is where I am, which is across the bridge. There's a bunch. There's one out near us, and actually one near us actually has a voodoo truck.
Oh, no way.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
And they're pretty good. I would say they're definitely. Are they exactly the same as if I go downtown to Voodoo and stand in line? Maybe not, but sounds like better than the one you're getting, Steve.
Oh yeah, Team Nerd Herd road trip for sure. We're going to Oregon.
No, they do have Rose City Con. We'll have to check out and check out those donuts.
Rose City. I don't do the cons, but I've heard great things about Rose City, and you could also always do ECCC, which is Seattle, and that's you could do a double whammy there with the two great cities.
Wow.
There's a spot I keep forgetting. I can't believe I don't remember the name, but
Frankenstein.
There's a spot in Portland where you can get these bomb like Thai wings or these wings. I think it's named Tuk Tuk or something like that. I don't know. But
I don't know that one, but I'm not a big wing fan. Whenever we get wings, my friends always want to go to this Fire on the Mountain place. They love that. But I'm not a wing fan, so I can't speak to the quality.
But we can all agree on donuts. We can.
Yep.
I was going to say I don't really like eating with my hands, but we just talked about donuts, so I guess that's
Hey, so Kelly, where did you where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Portland?
I grew up in California, actually. I was
nice.
born in the sort of San Francisco area.
Nice.
And I lived in San Jose for the first little bit of my life. My dad worked for a company that was a little bit like being a military brat because they contracted out to the government. And so they would be jobs of X number of years or something. And so we moved around a little bit. We moved to Colorado. I was there for a lot of my youth. And then I spent my formative teenage years in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is a different experience. And all my family is actually still there. It's a very beautiful place. It's not really for me, but it's a very beautiful place. So then I lit out for college. I went to a couple different places, including Savannah College of Art and Design, where I got a sequential art degree, and then proceeded to leave and get an administration job like everyone else.
How did that happen? So how did comics happen? How did comics come from the administration origin of Kelly Thompson?
Well, I always wanted to do it. I always wanted to write. It's just, you get out there in the big bad world and nobody's handing you a bunch of cash to do something that you're not really good at yet anyway. So, I was just sort of making it happen as far as paying the bills and stuff. But, I never stopped wanting to do it. I took sort of a weird winding path to get back to it. I wrote a superhero novel, which, they're sort of a dime a dozen today. But when I started doing it, and even when I published it, they weren't that in vogue yet. And I really just wanted to do a comic book, but I didn't have any extra money to have anyone draw it. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll do this in prose. Nobody's really doing that with superheroes. So maybe that's interesting. And so that became like a sort of cult hit, that book, when it finally eventually came out. And by
what is
then,
that book called?
I had written Heart in a Box and was sort of reworking it and trying to see about finding an artist and getting it placed. And all that time while I was still working, now I'd moved to New York and I was still working in a similar job, like office director for a high-end residential architecture, which is what I've been doing in LA too. And then I started writing for CBR and Comics Should Be Good, doing op-eds and reviews and stuff like that, and just sort of slowly winding my way in the door.
That's awesome. So when did comic books start for you? Like just being a fan and reading and a reader and all that good stuff, Yeah,
there's sort of two different things. I have to give credit to Archie Comics. When I was a kid, they'd be in the checkout line and I'd beg for them every time, drive my mother crazy. And I think, they were really pivotal toward making me fall in love with comics, teaching me how to read them, teaching me how the stories worked and what it was all about. But I didn't understand that there was like a whole world of comics. I only knew these Archie digests. Like, I'm sure there were spinner racks in places I went from time to time, but I never even picked up on them. It wasn't until a lot of people of a certain age, I saw the X-Men cartoon when I was a teenager. And I was like, this is amazing. What is this? Why don't I know about this? I was super into it. And so I have 2 younger brothers. Scott is the middle one, and he was really into it too. Dave liked it, but he didn't love it. And a couple weeks after in my mind, it's a couple weeks. It could have been longer. Scott came home from the mall with my mom and Dave, and he's jumping up and down, and he's like, look, it's that girl from the cartoon. And he's got Uncanny X-Men number 290 in his hands, which is Storm on the cover in the rain.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Crap. And Dave, who didn't really care about comics but wanted his own, he had X-Force number 3. And so those became my first 2, like, quote unquote real comics, right? That were like a monthly, and like that really just opened the doors to, hey, you go to a store every week, you get a pull, you put these things on, here's the schedule, there's a Wizard magazine, there's a price guide, there's cards, and that was the whole real thing. And I have to say, right when we got into it was when the Jim Lee, was it series 1 or series 2? It was 1992.
Series 2.
Those cards that were so amazing, which I still have.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I have, what I actually have are 2 sets. I have one set that's all banged up because my brother and I invented playing war with them.
Nice.
Oh, man.
The only way to play it, though.
Well, it only works if you really fundamentally agree on the strength of characters. And I think we all know you can't put 2 nerds in a room and get them to agree. But at the time when we were young, Scott and I were so into this hobby together, and we were really the only people that knew about it. So our understanding of the characters was very shared. So there were very few fights about who beats who when you put down a card. Like, we were very in agreement. If we tried to play today, it would be a nightmare. And if I tried to play it with anyone else, I'm sure it would be a nightmare. You'd be like, Magic beats everyone.
That's right.
And then he got me as a present one year. He got me a full, like, pristine set that's all in and everything. So
that's cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, Alonzo knows a lot about that.
Yeah, I was about to say, those Marvel cards are making a resurgence, right?
I saw something about that. I didn't know it's not specifically the Jim Lee ones, is it? It's just Marvel in general.
It starts with the Marvel Series 1, but a lot of that stuff is trickling down to all the other ones, like Marvel Masterpieces and also the Jim Lee X-Men. Some of those ones, if you can get them or they're in good shape and grade like a PSA 10, they can get you a nice chunk of change.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Right now,
I may have to look into this.
Alonzo, they're not for sale. They're not for sale. Alonzo.
Alonzo's like drooling over here. Oh my!
I could see the look in his eyes, Kelly, and I just want to interject. I mean, if you need me to interject, I got JR.
If I can trade in one of them to get that Stephanie Hahn art, I mean, maybe I got to talk. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
It's always a price.
I'm just curious. Out of those early at that time, what was like your favorite character?
Rogan
out of that early
Gambit.
one.
Who else? I was a 15-year-old girl.
Makes sense. My best friend at the time was a huge Gambit fan.
Yeah.
That makes total sense.
Yeah. I mean, I just, I loved a lot of things about them. I mean, the first thing I saw, I think when we turned on the X-Men cartoon, it was that early scene where they're in the mall fighting the Sentinel. And Rogue is like wearing a mini dress, and she's flying through the air, and she's a giant robot in the face. And I was just in love. Like, that was it. I was so in. So is finding out through the comics, it was right at that time when they were really pushing that Rogue and Gambit, will they, won't they? I think I was buying a little bit back. So I think when I was so diehard into it that I had a pull and everything, it was probably like X-Men 15, 16, 17, like that kind of stuff. So, you know, it was right when they were really getting into the Rogue and Gambit stuff. And man, I was hooked.
So did that lead you into going to school in Savannah?
It did. I mean, I went to University
Nice.
of Arizona for a couple years to study graphic design, and I really liked it. I was having a good time, but I also, there's a story I just told it the other day, so hopefully podcasters don't listen to, or people who listen to podcasts don't listen to all the same episodes. But I had an assignment that I really liked where you were designing basically a logo and a concept for an alcoholic beverage. And for extra credit, you had to do the label and you had to make a physical product. But for the extra credit, you could also design like the 6-pack carrying case or whatever it was.
Oh, okay.
And I really liked the assignment. And so I was like, I'm gonna do the extra credit. Every single fucking person did the extra credit. And I looked around and I was like, these people love graphic design like I love comics, and I'm never going to be better than them because when they go home, they're thinking about graphic design, and when I go home, I'm thinking about comics. And so that was the moment when I was like, yep, I'm going to transfer.
So did you go back and get that first appearance of Gambit?
Yes, I definitely, I have that. I have that for sure.
Slabbed or raw?
Signed. I actually have that signed.
Signed.
Yeah. I only ever went to one con, but Jim Lee and Chris Claremont were there, and a bunch of other cool people. J. Scott Campbell, like all those 90s guys. So I have a whole bunch of cool signed stuff in my collection. Yeah, just from that one trip.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
what's your favorite book in your collection right now? You seem like you're like us. We want to know.
I mean,
The people want to know.
the Gambit one is probably pretty up there. Maybe X-Men 1 signed.
Ooh, damn! You got street cred right there. You got street cred now, Kelly.
Some of the early. I mean the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont one, of course. I don't have the other one, or I'd be too rich for any of us, right?
That's okay. I have that Jim Lee, Chris Claremont one that came out in the 90s, and I love it.
Show off.
It got me started. Got me started.
Yeah. So yeah, that kind of stuff. I have some fun early Gen 13 stuff signed by Campbell. That's cool.
Nice.
Stuff like that. The thing I really miss the most, though, and I don't know what I did with it, is that when I went to that con, there were some really cool posters they were giving out, and one of them I got was a Image Studios homage poster that was like all the Image characters that were so hot right then. It was really incredible, and it must have been 6 feet long because at one point I put it up in my room and it was like wallpaper. It was so huge.
Oh wow!
And I don't know what happened. But boy, it was cool.
Wow,
that is cool. I remember going to New York Comic Con a couple years ago, and they reunited all the Cliffhanger people, and they did a big poster. It was J. Scott Campbell and Maturin, and I always forget the person that did Crimson. Hubert Ramos.
Oh yeah.
And they put all that on one, and it was another one that was like 5 feet long. And it's just like, where are you going to put this thing?
Let me tell you where you're going to put it. If you're a college student, you know exactly where to put it as wallpaper in your bedroom. If you're an adult, good luck, because sure nobody's wife wants that in the living room.
What? No.
Just got to find the right wife.
Oh.
Well, then you guys have great wives. I should get one of those wives.
I haven't found one yet. I'm still single.
My wife makes me keep everything in my room. No, nothing outside. So.
Well, at least you got the room, right?
Yeah,
I know, that's right. It's all right here. Look at all this.
Right?
Yeah.
So not to risk you getting in trouble, but is it safe to say you're a Marvel girl?
No. I mean, I mean, who doesn't want to write Batman? I love DC. I mean, I think definitely Marvel was my entry point as a kid, and so I probably hold more sort of nostalgia for that stuff. I'm also probably better and more consistently read on Marvel stuff. Like there are big gaps in my reading history at DC that, I mean, I have huge gaps at Marvel too, but they're less. But like Cassandra Cain is one of my favorite characters.
Such a great character.
Yeah, she's fantastic. She's my favorite Batgirl. Who doesn't love Nightwing? I was one of those people, and this was a really good lesson for me as both a reader and a writer, when they were killing Batman and Nightwing became Batman. I was like, I hate this idea. I hate it. I was like, it sucks.
Dick was not a good Batman.
I was like, I love Bruce Wayne. I love Batman, and I love Dick Grayson. But why do they have to be the same thing? And then Scott Snyder went on and wrote some of my favorite Batman comics I've ever read, with Dick Grayson in the role. That Black Mirror trade. It was a great lesson in, let go of your preconceptions, open your mind. You might just find something you love.
Well, that's also keys to a great writer. I mean, that's why, like, I love when I read stuff, especially when early on, like I found Grant Morrison, I found Warren Ellis, and I just latched onto anything they wrote. I'd be like, okay, I don't care what they're writing, as long as it's not Spider-Man, I'm reading it.
Yeah, following creators you really love is a great way to find new stuff and really get exposed to some great stuff.
Most definitely. I mean, that's how I really got into a lot of your work, reading Captain Marvel. And then I know, talking with the fellas, they're telling me to pick up the Hawkeye Kate Bishop run, as well as, reading the new Deadpool run as well. And then, corralling it to Black Widow. So I really appreciate your work. And I'm coming in as a new reader, so I'm totally latching onto a lot of these titles and trying to get to know a lot of the the storylines and history. So I have the greatest appreciation for that, most definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I know it's hard because, we're so, it honestly gets harder every day because we're so, as the way we consume media is so immediate. We have no patience for it. And I am just as guilty of this as anyone else, but you watch a show, you want to watch all 10 episodes. You want to do it this weekend because you get obsessed with it. And comics is just not that same storytelling. And so it's very hard as a creator to put out something that can stand on its own as a single piece to absorb, but then also just know, oh, hey, this is a fifth of it. There's a lot more coming, because it has to be judged on its own merit, but then it's also a piece of a larger pie. And audiences, I don't know, I feel like they really struggle with it. I think a lot of the blowback you see and a lot of the controversies you see over comic stuff, some of it is legitimate, but a lot of it is like, well, you're talking about, we haven't seen the resolution for that yet. We haven't seen the payoff. We don't know where that's going. And maybe it's all going to be worth it. And I think it often is in comics, but people are less and less inclined to be patient like that and let it dole out. I mean, I think TV helped us for a long time, because TV happened in a similar way. I mean, it happened faster, but you still had to wait. But now that TV has become so much more about streaming, that slips away more and more for comics. It makes it tough, I think. I think it's why one of the reasons you see such strong sales for OGNs in the book market and stuff like that, while individual issues week to week, even though there's this huge collector's market and these diehard fans, it struggles because it's the new people who come in are like, well, can I just read it as a single piece later? And you're like, oh yeah, sure, you can do that. And they're like, well, then why would I read it piecemeal over 5 months? It's tricky.
No, that makes sense. But I mean, at least we got Disney is now kind of forcing us with WandaVision and this other stuff to learn to okay, just get it one piece a week. It's like my mom used to go, you can have this candy tonight, and then tomorrow you can have another piece.
But what's the fun in that?
Netflix ruined America.
Well, WandaVision has been so good. Really incredible.
It's good, man.
Oh my God, I have to.
You got me up till midnight now, Kelly. Are you staying up till midnight to watch that thing? No, it's
No, well, I have been watching it weekly now, but when I started, I had 4 saved up. And I honestly thought that was a really good call for me, because even though the first 2 issues are so sort of a perfect execution of what they're trying to do, I think for fans like us who know a lot, they're a little boring, even though they're charming, they're charming and really well done, and you appreciate the prestige.
They still sucked when it was happening.
Yeah, you're like, wait, we spent 40 minutes on this idea? I know there's a lot of story we need to churn through, and it makes you anxious. But when I started to see the stuff coming in 3, I was like, oh yeah, here we go. I was like, this is going to turn, and I'm going to love how these things click together. And then I think by episode 5, I was like, oh, this is I'm in love. Like, it's amazing. So, but a lot of credit to that crew. Like, I think those are the first people through the wall on doing something a little different that's still under the Marvel umbrella. Because I mean, like, we had Legion, which was very different, but that was being done by someone else. And so I don't know, it's pretty exciting to see what they're doing, You know what
I appreciated about it? It's like they treated us like we were smart, right? They're like, we're gonna give this to you, and you're going to understand it because we trust that you can. And then the fourth episode was a major payoff. Like, okay, I get it now. Like, thank you for believing in me, Disney. I didn't believe in myself for a while there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think you're exactly right. Like, I was a little disappointed in myself.
Yeah,
that I was bored with those first 2 episodes because I was like, how dare I? Like, it's just like reading a comic. It's the setup. We need the setup. But I was being a little impatient. And so I love that they sort of trusted us and that they're not really holding people's hands. I was very excited to see, spoiler alert, the Catherine Hahn turn. I knew it would happen. I knew it was going to be one thing or the other thing. Just because Catherine Hahn's so good, you wouldn't just put her in the neighbor role.
Yeah.
But it was perfectly excuted. Really.
But I think they're going to twist that again.
I think maybe
please do
you're
it
right.
to me, baby.
I think maybe you're right. And then the Monica Rambeau stuff. Oh, just so good.
Yeah.
Oh man, she's awesome. That the actress. Oh, dude, I love her.
Yeah.
She was from Mad Men.
Yeah.
And I barely recognized her, but she was good in that too. She's great. I'm very excited about where she's going to take that character.
And I appreciate she's not like, the model actress. Like, she's actually like a woman, a real woman, like, she likes donuts too, like, come on, let's go,
Yeah.
You gotta be a real woman if you're gonna fight against Scarlet Witch. I mean, that was an amazing scene.
Well, the fight I want to see is when she goes against Captain Marvel, because it at least to me it seemed like that episode, like when they brought up Captain Marvel, I felt like she wanted to go, fuck that bitch.
I think they're just suggesting there's story there. I don't know that it's that. I mean, I'm
wondering if she got her mom killed. I wonder if she holds her mom accountable for holds her accountable for getting her mom killed with cancer.
Maybe. I mean, they definitely implied like what she was talking about with cell regeneration and stuff when she went through.
Mm-hmm. There's some bad blood there.
They're definitely setting some cool stuff up. But my Monica Rambeau interest, though it's very high now, is very skewed towards Next Wave. So I would much rather see than her and Captain Marvel go at it. I would much rather see her get yanked into some kind of weird other
Agents of Hate,
and then come kicking out of it with Elsa Bloodstone and She-Man and stuff. And it's like, hey, we saved the world. You're welcome. You didn't even know. And then like now
Mark Millar eats goats or licks goats.
running crazy in our world, taking care of weird crap that regular superheroes can't handle. I would love that.
Have you guys? I know, obviously, Kelly, you've read the book. Have any of you guys else read that book?
Next Wave?
Next Wave? Have any of you guys ever read that?
No. I think it might have, but it's been a while.
It's Stuart Amon, I want to say, is the artist.
And Warren Ellis.
And you can go ahead, Kelly. I mean, you probably explain better than me.
One of the best, weirdest superhero comics that's ever come out. The art is absolutely incredible. It's Monica Rambeau, Elsa Bloodstone, Machine Man, the Captain, and Boom Boom, who, even though I had a section for her from my 90s days, I never really got it. And she works crazy well in that scenario.
Yes.
It's wild and off the wall. They fight robots and men made out of broccoli and koala bears that bite. It's crazy.
It's Warren Ellis on drugs.
A little bit. There are a couple things that have aged not great, but on the whole, it's just incredible. And it's only 12 issues, so you guys can read it tonight.
I'll check that out.
And there's one of the covers, because I believe it was Civil War tie-in, but they said that this is not a Civil War tie-in. It had the cut like it was Civil War, and it had one of the signs was Mark Millar licks goats on the cover of it.
Yeah, it was funny.
I'll definitely check that out.
I mean, talking about, let's I want to take it back to Disney Plus, they're coming out with characters that you worked on. How's that feel? That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, I don't really know anything. So
we're talking about the Hawkeye show, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
For the noobs.
The Hawkeye show certainly is the thing everyone's sort of excited about and sort of nudging me about and being like, oh, is it your stuff? And it's like, I don't really know. I mean, they call it anchor points, but they use code names for those things all the time. So it could just be a nice reference to it. I have no idea how much is in it or not. I mean, I think my guess would be Jeremy Renner is going to be very prevalent. And so it's definitely not going to be anchor points, which is more of a Kate Bishop story. But, it's exciting to think about something that you were a part of and that helped create and helped build, that people are going to pick it up and do something even bigger with it. It's exciting. It's a little scary too. I've obviously have no ownership over Kate Bishop, but I do feel very protective toward her. And so, you can kind of get nervous, but everything I've seen has been really cool. I think Haley Steinfeld is an incredible actress.
Yeah. They really hit a home run with that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. She's perfect for it.
Yeah, definitely.
In my heart of hearts, I sort of wanted them to cast a woman of color, like a more, like a Lana Condor or something. But I think she's perfect, basically. Like it seems amazing. So it's.
I see some of I see some of the stage, shots, and I'm like, damn, she's perfect for it. Like I'm so excited for it. Like can't wait.
She also she seems really into it, which is all exciting.
Yeah,
she
you can tell
real fun,
Yep, and all those, like, to Ian's point, like all those like pictures that we're seeing on the internet, you can feel the attitude.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of what you did with West Coast Avengers and Hawkeye, I mean, really, I can see that in Haley's performance, even though they're stills. I mean, you can see that attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I don't want to take credit for that because other people did a lot of great stuff with Kate before I got there. So I'm sure they're looking at a lot of things. But yeah, it's exciting to see that stuff coming alive and wondering about it. I was joking the other day that I wish they'd put Jeff the Landshark in Deadpool 3, but then I was like, things in Deadpool get killed really fast, so maybe I should take that
back. There you go.
Yeah.
See, I'll say I'm more excited about Pizza Dog coming up in the Hawkeye show.
Yeah, that dog is like a perfect cast, huh? He's adorable.
Yeah.
I want to adopt him and feed him and take him home.
So I have a question for you, Kelly, and it's I guess so. I know you're writing a number of books for Marvel. So one, how do you keep it all straight? And then two, how do you go from like a spy type of book to one that's like a Buck Rogers type of book with Captain Marvel, and then you go to something that's very like slapstick, like Deadpool? I mean, how do you do this?
Late most of the time. I it's hard. Someone asked me the other day, like, oh, do you write one when you're in such and such a mood? And I was like, unfortunately, this schedule doesn't really allow for that. Like, oh, I'm funny today, so I'll write Deadpool. No, this Deadpool script has to be done no matter how depressed you are. So, like any writer, you sort of come up with tricks, and a lot of it is avoidance. But one of the things that I found that works really well for me, switching between projects, it doesn't work as well to switch between media, but it works tonally for projects as I cultivate playlists for each of them. So it helps sort of almost in a Pavlovian way, sort of get me into the mindset of Deadpool versus Captain Marvel versus Sabrina versus Black Widow. Although I need to change Black Widow's playlist now because we've shifted into a slightly different tone,
What is on that playlist? I want to know.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, I need to hear this.
Yes, hear this. Come on, let's go.
Let's see what's on the Black Widow playlist. Let's see. Well, there's some sort of Breakaway, Art Garfunkel, which is a very California album to me. And that's a lyric she quotes that she's singing to herself at certain points. There's some sort of Blue Monday, Voices Carry Till Tuesday stuff. Some
I'm feeling it.
A little bit of AC/DC in there because of course.
Got it.
And,
Oh yeah.
Some Daft Punk and the Go Team and things like that. Some Justice, a little bit of Beastie Boys, some Aha.
There you go.
Yeah,
Very well rounded.
Yeah, it's a good mix. It's a good mix.
Total 90 kid.
Like
I love the playlist. I love it.
So Black Widow's 10's a little more dark. My Kate Bishop playlist is a little more up, a little more light, although they've both got some California undertones to them. They both have Best Coast on them. So Sabrina tends to be a little darker and moodier, but still sort of female and up. With Carol, I try to sort of go bigger. For Deadpool, I go a little bit nastier, a little bit, more.
So what's on that nastier playlist for Deadpool?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Come on,
Come on,
like some Janet Jackson Control.
Yeah, I mean, there's just going to be more rougher, more intense stuff.
Disturbed.
I don't know about that, but I put Wu-Tang Clan on there because they're from Staten Island.
Oh, that's right.
That was like a thing that we worked into it, and I put DMZ in there because it's in the movie and it makes me think of the movie, and stuff like that.
Do you shuffle, or is it a perfected playlist 1 through 10?
Well, it's always more than 10 because then I'd have to hear it so many times. So, but usually I do not shuffle. No.
There you go. You're a true playlister because that shit's lazy. If you hit shuffle, that shit's lazy and you haven't done a playlist right?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it is because what I'm trying to do is provoke a sort of Pavlovian response in myself that keeping it the same sort of helps make me feel like, oh, I feel like writing Deadpool now, like tricking myself into it. So keeping it the same, I think, helps in that regard.
So I'm just curious, like with a character like Deadpool, it's got a lot of history and a lot of really great writers have written Deadpool over the years.
Yeah.
Does it ever kind of get daunting where you go and look back and go, well, shit, I'm following Joe Kelly, or I'm following Hussein, or I think Patton Oswalt wrote it for a little while.
Yeah.
These people.
I think Jerry Dugan has one of the best runs, and I didn't come right after him. I came after Scotty. But those are all really hard shoes to follow. But I mean, listen, I started at Marvel basically. I mean, the third thing I did at Marvel was Hawkeye, and that was after that Mad Fraction David Aja run that like everyone loved. Huge hit, and so that was like a really dumb move on my part. That sort of paid off, fortunately. But yeah, I mean, it's not how I would recommend you do it. Like, don't be like, oh, hey, what's the best book that exists? Let me, a newbie, try to do that follow-up.
I'll be honest. I remember when that happened, and I don't know my exact words at the time, but I remember switching from Fraction, and it was, I saw a female's name, and I went, who the fuck is this? Nothing personal. Obviously I didn't know you, but it's just, I kind of went like, you're going from Hawkeye with Fraction and this other art at Aja, and then you're going to this no name. I'm going, what the fuck are they doing?
Well, in fairness, poor Jeff Lemire had to go directly after Matt, so I had a slight buffer. But yeah, I mean, listen, I forgot
Lemire did that.
I had a really strong pitch, and Sana put together an incredible team, and there we ended up. Like, it just worked. Like, that book knew what it was from page one, and you could buy in or not, but that was what it was going to be. And on Deadpool, the hardest thing about Deadpool is not just the writers, but that he's done everything already. Yeah. He's been in a billion books. There are a billion stories. It's very hard to find new ground with the character. There was a time when it was easy because he was just being played as sort of a fourth wall breaking bad guy assassin type that you liked to, that you liked enough that you were rooting for anyway. But, that Deadpool went away a long time ago, as far as I'm concerned. He's still got all these edges to him, but there's a heart of gold buried beneath all that other crap. He's a truly good person, I believe, if you get deep enough, and that stuff has already been sort of drawn out in really beautiful ways. I mean, I think Jerry's run and the incredible Uncanny X-Force run that he was in,
Yeah.
Really showed off what you could do with that character. And so that was our approach going in, was to do something fun that he hadn't done before, which was very difficult. And then I wanted to talk about people being monsters and what is a monster and is he one and what defines that and who decides. And so that sort of became our thematic stuff for it.
I will say though, when I did read your run, because I still clubbed. I'm a completionist, so I've even got, as much as it hurts me, I do not like Lemire. I know he's a fine person. I just don't like his writing. I've got that part of my run.
Okay.
I enjoyed your stuff.
Oh, thanks.
I just was like, at the time, kind of like, what the hell are you doing?
I mean, I think,
I think you did an awesome job on it.
Thank you. I think that, the problem with anyone coming after that run, who's going to do it? Like how do you go higher than that? I mean, it had really achieved everything it could hope to achieve as far as critical success and financial success. It was a huge hit out of nowhere, and it really redefined the character. And I know
with
some
a C-lister character.
But, it is, where do you go from there? It's tricky. And I think one of the reasons Marvel probably took my pitch, which was originally not called Hawkeye, it was Hawkeye Investigations. I think they felt this is a direction we can go in that's different than what we had and that will lead us to other places. And so,
nice.
Here we are.
Oh, that's great. So kind of to circle back to Deadpool, and now that he's the King of Monsters, I know you had mentioned Next Wave. Is that why you brought Elsa Bloodstone into Deadpool's universe?
I love Elsa Bloodstone. I love putting her in places where she sort of doesn't belong. Like, I put her in the last arc of my A-Force, and she sort of belonged there, and she sort of didn't. And then I put her in my Jessica Jones book, in the first arc of my Jessica Jones book, and I had to fight with my editor to do that because she was like, I don't really see how she fits in with this world. And I was like, that's why it's interesting. I was like, Jessica Jones is a private detective in a superhero world. She should come into contact with all this weird crap. And putting her with Elsa Bloodstone, who's like a giant monster hunter, is fun. Like, let's do it. So I finally twisted her arm into it, and people loved it. And I was like, great. I'm glad to be right again.
Yes. Told you so.
But she did make sense to me in Deadpool because he's now king of the monsters and she's a monster hunter. And so it just really made sense that they would come into contact and either be at loggerheads or start at loggerheads and then have it turn into something else. And I just thought, we keep seeing him paired off with these incredibly beautiful women who sort of aren't right for him. They're either too monstrous or too good, i.e. Rogue is too good and Shikla is too monstrous. And so maybe he needs something a little bit in the middle. And Elsa Bloodstone is a character who's been looking at monsters since she was a year old. She's not afraid of somebody's face who's made of hamburger. So, she doesn't really, that's not something that's going to bother her the way it would bother me, And so it just sort of happened, He ended up with.
Why can't I find somebody like that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I need to find my Elsa.
We all want our own Elsa. I
God.
And then, and we know Deadpool has Jeff the Landshark. How did you come up with this character, Jeff the Landshark, all the way from West Coast Avengers?
So it basically came about because, in West Coast Avengers 1, the premise is basically that MODOK has turned himself into a hot version of himself called Brodok. And he's been creating all these monsters, including these crazy land sharks. And one of these amazing land sharks that Stefano Caselli drew in the background looked very concerned. And so here's this shark running around, this concerned look on his face. And I thought, what about these poor sharks? They don't want to be running around on land. They hate it. What's going on? And so from there, I have these cats that I've had for a few years now. They're like my whole world. Clive and the Monarch, they're amazing. And it made me want to write a sort of pet character. And I somehow merged sort of some of these cat qualities in with this baby or stunted growth land shark. And there we are. And I called him Jeff because I like weird names for characters. I did see someone calling him Steve the Landshark the other day, and I was like, honestly, that works. That's fine too.
I'd be okay with that.
Do you think Gwenpool will ever come back and want Jeff back?
I think she never didn't want him, but I don't think that's where he belongs. I think he belongs to everyone now. As I've heard it, as I understand, he's going to be staying in the cuckoo clock's going off. He's staying in Deadpool for a while, I believe, with the new writer. I'm doing a separate thing that's sort of out of continuity. That's like a separate sort of fun thing that they haven't really announced yet. I teased it on my Twitter, but it's just like an image right now. Like it's not, we don't know what it is.
Can you tell us what characters?
I do have plans for him later, but it's gonna be a little while. I mean, I think probably.
Are you allowed to say it's like a Deadpool spinoff? Is that?
It's not. The thing I'm planning for him is not Deadpool related. I mean, I'm off. Okay. I'm off Deadpool, sad as it is.
Okay. I was just curious if maybe we're getting like Deadpool versus literature again, or that type of thing, which is a great miniseries also.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's like a perfect example of a writer just hitting on something that's such a good idea, right?
Yeah.
I don't know much about the new book except for I just know that they wanted to keep Jeff for a while. And I was promised that no harm would come to him. So
nice.
There you go.
You're like, it was in my contract. Nothing happens.
I mean, honestly, I just re-upped and I probably should have put that in there. I was like, this character should be his own cartoon, so nobody can kill him, please.
Tell me you also want a plushie of him too.
Oh, so badly, right?
Yeah, I could see that being a definite plushie character.
Yeah,
that thing would fly off the shelves.
I'm not always into Funkos, but I think a Jeff Funko would be really cute.
That would be dope. That would be dope.
Yeah.
Brian, if you're listening, make it happen.
And one more question: Are we ever going to see Star again? I really like that arc over in Captain Marvel. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I
awesome.
love Star. I think she's a great character. You know, we did a miniseries which really fleshed her out in some interesting ways. She's currently in Matt Rosenberg's Thunderbolts, but it's only 3 issues.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, but it's really funny and good. And she will definitely be appearing in a Spider-Man like a one-shot. I don't think I'm going to be writing that though. I'm not sure. We were talking about it, but I don't think I've got room in my schedule. I think she'll definitely be popping up. I mean, the problem is I can't really bring her back to Captain Marvel right away. Because, you know, we don't want to revisit the same stuff. Like I think it's important to build Carol's Rogues Gallery, and I've been trying to do that bit by bit. But at the same time, you can't bring someone back right away because then you're like, wait, we just saw this person, you know? So that's honestly a really tricky balance building Rogues Galleries. I think especially because books don't have long runs very often these days. Like by the time you get around to maybe you want to bring someone back and like further develop like, hey, this is a real nemesis for this character. It's someone else's book by that time, you know, and they're moving on to their own thing. So
also back in the day you used to be able to do like a one shot, have them show up in there and come back 30 issues later. Now it's like you write 5 issues and they're in that whole run.
Yeah. No, there's not a lot of B and C plots that develop under. Like you don't get to do that very much these days. It's like the one plot and you're trying to get that through that in 4 to 6 issues because that'll be the trade. And you don't know if you're getting more than a trade. So you better not build in B and C plots. Otherwise they'll just be loose hanging threads. It's tricky.
So kind of since we're kind of touching upon Captain Marvel, so this week's book was amazing. I really liked it, and I felt again you kind of like you break people's hearts. You know, Captain Marvel confronts Rhodey and just says, "We can't be together because I've been to the future, and your daughter is amazing."
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Oh my god!" I mean, it just I was like, "Oh." Because they seem really perfect together. I mean, they are very comfortable together. I mean, you made this relationship like work, like organically. And And now it's like they're done because she came from the future, and I'm like, oh god. And then
what was that soundtrack like for you? That playlist, that'd be a sad one, huh?
I think that I love.
Is it On My Own? That song, like
hello,
man.
Hello.
Yeah,
I like
Lionel Richie.
People's hearts, and then make them laugh, and then they make them cry again. I like that roller coaster. I feel like that's sort of what life is, so that's what we want. I feel like I know some people are mad about the Rhodey thing. I'm actually very pro Carol and Rhodey. I don't know that there's a better match for her out there other than maybe Spider-Woman, which is not something anyone's going to let me do. These are billion-dollar properties. They don't get decided by freelance writers. But I mean, I think that the military connection and a lot of things that sort of resolve around that they really need to live their own separate lives, but they're good at sort of supporting each other. I think they're really good for each other. I think that maybe sometimes that's a little boring, and I blame myself for that. I think there's also a thing that happens where Rhodey gets short shrift because it's Carol's book. So the best he can ever hope to get in there is a good Lois Lane story. And even that he can't really get because it's not, I don't know, because I write it more when I'm writing it less like a solo book, it's more of a team book, not a duo book, right? So he sort of gets screwed a little bit. And I think I want to address that. I want to like bring that stuff in and like really make something of it. And at the same time, I think that Carol makes bad decisions. I mean, I think she's like all of us. I think it's one of the really relatable things about her. And, she's got a history of making bad decisions about what she thinks the future is, like Civil War II, for example. So this is pretty on track for the kind of decisions she's making. I will say that issues 27 through 30 are a bit of a wild ride. Some sort of unexpected places, and definitely not mistakes are being made, basically.
I mean, I know. Well, the next issue, it's like basically Captain Marvel like love connection. I mean, right?
I'm gonna need to get Kleenex.
I mean, it's like
it's more like girls' night plus an intervention plus something unexpected plus these giant cat snakes I created called snats because you need to punch things.
Cat snakes.
But yeah, I think people are going to be very surprised by what happens at the end of 27. I think that in the hands of a lesser artist than David Lopez, maybe we wouldn't have pulled it off, but he's very, very good. And even I was like, well, now I sort of like this. What are we going to do? So it's going to be interesting.
I mean,
the upcoming arc is her. She's got that new costume that's sort of magic based looking, and
yes,
learn magic to deal with these mistakes she made with Ove, basically, which is the wrong way to say it, by the way. It's like Ove or something.
Okay, I was going to mention it because like he's now in Captain Marvel's time.
Yeah, she's screwed up.
She did.
She really did. She really did. And so a lot of 28 through 30 is her trauma from all of that and her trying to correct those mistakes, but maybe only making things worse because she's Carol and she thinks everything should sort of be a certain way and she should do it on her own. And, and so she's making some mistakes. Someone, I did an interview where I think the very last thing I said in the interview was, someone was like, how will this go for her? And I was like, this will go horribly. Nobody wants Carol to learn magic. And then I saw these people commenting on it and people were like, this is so dumb. What? She's just going to be invincible now. And other people were like, read the interview. She literally said it's going to go bad. And I was like, yes, listen to this person.
Yeah, because I mean, everybody thinks, and I mean, I kind of feel the same way, and it's kind of based on also the MCU, right? That Captain Marvel is overpowered.
Yeah, she's definitely got a Superman problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I got kryptonite for her. It's called Rogue.
Yeah.
Hey, Kelly.
Her kryptonite a little bit is magic, which is what sends her on this path, but it doesn't mean that the solution there is learning magic or becoming invulnerable to it or whatever she thinks she can do. So,
hey, Kelly, can I ask you some rapid fire questions, because we're coming up on an hour?
Yeah.
And I want to inquiring minds want to know, where would you take a guest to eat in Portland? Where do you take all your guests to eat?
Oh, my boyfriend is saying Pine State, and he's right that's very good.
Pine State, is that breakfast place? No, is it?
They do breakfast, I think. What they really do well is, if it's in season, they've got an heirloom tomato BLT on a biscuit.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the place. That is the place.
That's the place.
I've been there. They got the mean pancakes over there too.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so good.
We also love, there's a place called Olympia Provisions that has 2 locations here, which is incredible. I recommend that to anyone. One of the things I like about that place is that Portland has an obsession, for some reason, I don't understand why, with not having waiters. So there are tons of restaurants that are order at the counter, find a seat, they bring it to your table stuff, and that's fine. But I don't go out that much. And when I go out, I want to sit with all my friends and talk to them, and I want us to all be served at reasonably the same time, as opposed to us all eating wings at different moments during a meal. So Olympia Provisions has some great locations, great food. There was a place that was recently renamed. Now I keep forgetting it, but I love that place. The place we took Matt. What was it called? What's it called? All good things or something? No, good. Okay. I forgot. Anyway, doesn't matter. Another place we love is Lardo, which is like a sandwich.
Oh yes.
Very heavy on the like meats and stuff, but incredible. They also have an amazing heirloom BLT. It goes around apparently.
Yeah, and a great brewery at that.
Yes, great brewery.
Oh man. What's your favorite song right now on your playlist? Your favorite song, current song?
I mean, we've been listening to that. What's the Wolves song? Aurora, Running with the Wolves. I've been listening to that nonstop. It's Adam's Fault. It's amazing. I've heard it about 100 times in the last week.
How about your favorite movie?
God, favorite movie of all time? Mad Max Fury Road, maybe?
Oh, there you go. Man.
Okay.
That's a pretty dope one, though. And about your what's your favorite comfort food? Is it a BLT? I'm just guessing.
I mean, an heirloom BLT. That's maybe on there. But I mean, I'm just gonna generally say sandwiches. I love sandwiches.
There you go. All right,
I got one to throw in there real quick.
Go ahead.
Batman animated series or X-Men animated series?
Oh man.
Oh,
that's like
you gotta pick a side, man. You gotta pick a. That might cost you a job.
You're a 90s kid like us.
I mean, I think as an adult, I have to say Batman the Animated Series. I think it holds up better. But my heart is, very deeply entrenched in X-Men the Animated Series. And how about this? Batman the Animated Series for the show, X-Men the Animated Series for the credits and song. Even though Batman's are great, I would have that X-Men ringtone.
I can hear it still. Right. Whenever someone says it, I can hear it, man.
I love it.
That's enough. I'll pay copyright.
How about New York or LA?
I think I have to say LA. Just gonna get me in trouble.
West Coast.
I'm more of a West Coast person. I lived in LA. I lived in New York for about 11 years, I guess, and there was a lot that I loved about it. But I also think I sort of overstayed my welcome, and it had become very hard to live there by the time we left, and that made it a little frustrating. That said, even though I feel like I'm a California girl forever, LA can be tough, man.
It is, man.
Yeah. A lot.
And last but not least, country you like to visit the most that you haven't been to.
I mean, there's so many because I'm pathetically traveled, but it's gonna be like Norway, Sweden, probably, Finland, that little area. Also, Iceland is really high for me to go, but also Ireland and England I haven't even been to, so I got a lot of things to check off.
I know. It's endless.
We all do post-COVID.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got one more. Sorry. Character you haven't written.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, the easy answer is Batman, Wonder Woman, Cassandra Cain, Big Barda, and Scott Free, two of my faves over at DC. Those are easy answers. I've gotten to write most of the Marvel characters I've gotten to write in some way or another. I mean, I haven't written the Thor book, but I've gotten to write Thor a few times. Same with Spider-Man, stuff like that. So it's honestly hard for me to come up with a character. I mean, I even got to write. I always sort of thought I wouldn't be a good writer for Captain America, but I got to write Steve for a little bit in Captain Marvel: The Last Avenger, and I really loved it. So,
did you write an X book?
I wrote Rogue Gambit, I wrote Mr. and Mrs. X, and then I wrote Uncanny X-Men with Matt Rosenberg and Ed Brisson. That was sort of the book that cleared the path for Hickman's relaunch. So the directive there was sort of break everything. So we did our best.
Hey. Awesome. There's so much baggage in the X-Men universe. It's hard to remember.
It's tough. It's a tough gig in there.
Yep.
Well, Kelly, we want to thank you so much for joining the podcast and taking the time out of your schedule to join us. We greatly appreciate it. We hope.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, we definitely would love to have you back on any new future projects. I know Black Widow's coming back in April, so we would love. Alonzo and I were talking about this backstage, so that would be for next time. But can you please take us out?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. If you want to do it right, collect what you like.
There you go. Bam. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you so much. Oh, I really wanted to talk to you too about that.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
That last 2 pages or
you
so.
Broke my heart. You broke my heart with Black Widow.
In Black Widow.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole page just killed me.
Yeah. I was hoping that people would be happy, because honestly, it's really hard with Black Widow because there are it's like the Clint shippers, the Bucky shippers, and then there's a small contingent of Matt Daredevil shippers, which I can't really get on board with that one because even though I really liked them together, who are we to pretend that it's not Elektra for Matt? Come on,
Karen Page will always be his love.
Yeah,
and Matt just likes to stick his dipstick in everything that moves. Though,
hey, for a blind guy, he knows what he's doing. That's what
I know he does.
But you sort of, if you give the Bucky people what they want, then the Clint people are unhappy. If you give the Clint people what they want, the Bucky people are unhappy. And I honestly, at this point, I don't know that she can or should be with either of them. To me, they really represent, and this is something I'm going to try to explore if we get a third arc, but she can't really choose between them because they sort of represent different parts of herself. So it would be choosing between parts of her own self, and how does one do that? So
well, maybe they can have a polyamorous relationship.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would be very into that. But talking about billion-dollar properties that are above my pay grade, I guarantee.
She just needs to hand them both a copy of Red Sparrow and say, "This is me," and just they'll understand then.
So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I definitely, she's going to be healing for a while there. I mean, that's a lot of what that Bucky scene especially was about. I sort of tried to play it both ways, and I think we were at least a little bit successful to openly acknowledge their true and deep feelings for one another, but also the honest impediments that are in their way. Clint, I think the impediments are less significant, especially now, but I also don't know, he brings out very light things in Natasha, and I don't think it's part of her, but it's not the whole part of her. So I don't know if that could ever fully work. It's complex. It's good stuff.
No, it's great. I mean, I really am a big, I think Natasha and Bucky are that's where it's at.
Yeah, the Brubaker stuff is pretty hard to deny how good it is and how sort of wonderfully it set it up. But I mean, I think the question is, should you be with someone that understands you better than anyone if they also have those same traumas and have trouble dealing with them themselves? Sometimes you want someone that compliments you in a different way, as opposed to someone that understands you that well, but also doesn't know how to move on from that stuff either. It's tricky.
Mm-hmm.
She needs to become Mrs. Murdoch. I'll stick with that.
But what about Stevie? Come on.
Well, I mean, I don't think Marvel wants Natasha to probably. I mean, they didn't tell me no. Nobody stopped me from doing that, and I think they really like the book. But they also knew that my intention was to put Stevie on a shelf where he could not be a continuing issue. I mean, I want to address it as a continuing trauma for her that she's trying to get over. But I think that I would be surprised if he doesn't come back someday, that some writer doesn't take it off the shelf as a thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe when he's grown or something. I don't know. The problem with grown children for superheroes is that, comics doesn't ever want them to really age. So giving Natasha a child really ages her. I mean, they've juggled it okay with things like Jessica Jones and Spider-Woman, but they juggle it mostly by those not being factors in their stories most of the time. And it's not terribly realistic and doesn't really, then what's the point, right? What's the point of Jessica having all this other stuff if we're never going to see it, So it's a little tricky.
Plus, Jessica's a train wreck. We always expect everything's going to go wrong in her world. I love her to death, but she's a train wreck.
Yeah, I love her. She's I've had a lot of fun writing Carol. Carol's not a supernatural voice for me. I had to work a little bit to get there with her. But Jessica Drew comes very naturally to me, and it's because she's a disaster area and she's sort of a funny mess, which I love.
Yeah.
I like her latest arc for Spider-Woman. I think it's great.
Yeah, Carla's doing a great job with that book for sure.
Yeah. It's a fun read, and you can tell how totally screwed up she is. It's oh my god, this is great.
She's got a lot of problems, that's for sure.
Oh yeah,
girl got issues.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Kelly.
I gotta go get some dinner, but thank you so much for having me.
Hey, hopefully we can meet sometime in person, or if you come to San Diego Comic-Con, because we're all there. So.
I'm very bad at that stuff, but maybe. Someday.
Yeah, maybe.
All right.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly. Good night.